Good morning. Hello. Welcome to Small Town Big Business. We are a podcast about finding your big success with your small business in a medium-sized city. Okay, small for now, but soon to be big. I'm Jennifer Olson. I'm the Director of Business Development for the City of Marion, and we're glad that you joined us.
Yeah, and I'm Russell Williams. I'm Director of Ethos. We're a small business incubator, co-working spaces, training and development here in downtown Marion, Illinois. In fact, you're joining us here in the Citadel building, historic building here on Tower Square Plaza. I want to thank you for joining us and also thank our sponsors for making the Small Town Big Business podcast possible. And that includes thank you to Arcadia Wealth Group, Black Diamond, Harley Davidson, and RV, Fowler Heating and Cooling, Swinford Media Group, the Watermark Auto Group Foundation, and Union Street Arts.
We just encourage you. We hate for you to miss any of our good content. So if you're just joining us, catch up and definitely hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss another episode. We're on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Plus, if you want to see our smiling faces or voice match with our
And why wouldn't you?
And why wouldn't you? We're also on YouTube, so you can see the video content also. With that, I want to introduce you to somebody who has a very creative business that is thriving here in Marion, Illinois, and her business has creative right in the name. The Creative Getaway, Johni Hogue.
Thank you so much. So, like she said, I am the owner of the Creative Getaway, which we are a do-it-yourself craft studio. I like to say Pinterest inspired because so many times people know that I love a challenge. So they'll be scrolling Pinterest and see something and I get messages nonstop about, is this something you can do? And I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
Never tried it, but I will try it. So we're an event-based business. So a lot of times people think that I'm a store, which I do have stuff for purchase, but it's an event-based business. So people will book events with me to come, and we do everything from a 3-year-old's birthday party to we have a kids summer camp to birthdays for all ages, bachelorette parties. We do a lot of corporate team building events where especially dentist office love to just bring all their staff and just kind of have a day of like bonding and leave with a fun project. So we do all different sorts of events as well as public offerings where people don't have to have a private party and invite a ton of people, but can just come in and make something fun with us. So we hear a lot like, well, I haven't been in because I'm not crafty. Well, I'm like, that's the perfect part then, because we actually walk everybody through the process from start to finish. So whether or not you're a seasoned crafter who's been doing it your whole life or you've never touched a paintbrush, we will make sure that you leave with something that you love.
That is cool. So a very unique business. And I remember when it opened, but can you tell us which month and year it opened?
So I actually opened during August of 2020. Yeah. So opening an event business right in the middle of a pandemic presented a unique set of challenges.
Yeah.
It's a very polite way to say that.
So everything was already well underway by the time that COVID happened. So the plan was already in place, and at that point there wasn't really an option to back out. Construction was already going, the build out was happening, stuff was ordered, it was happening. So in starting out, we obviously had to do very small events, so it was strictly like families. So we would do a private event, but it might be 5 people that were from the same household. So obviously that wasn't enough to run a business on. So I kind of had to pivot a little bit, and we shifted from events to doing more DIY at-home kits, and then also launched a subscription box. So I like to say it was kind of a blessing in disguise because I also work full-time in addition to my business. So it allowed me to kind of grow into what it is now. So if I had automatically landed from month one into what I do now, I would have been so overwhelmed and threw up my hands and said, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So it had challenges, but it was a blessing how it all panned out. And, I had all the naysayers in the world telling me like I was crazy and it was never going to make it. How it was. Everybody thought the whole world was ending, and I'm like, people are stuck in their house. This is perfect. I'm like, what better thing to do than now I can provide people with a creative outlet during a time where they can't even go anywhere really to get the supplies, so I can mail it right to their door.
So growing from a small family, 5, 7 people, whatever would have come in during those early months to now, if I come in, like, is it one group doing everything? Can you accommodate 4 different groups? Kind of what's your capacity?
So we have a little bit of everything going on. So my studio can accommodate up to 24 people. Well, I say 24 people, 24 adults. We have packed a lot of kids in there. It depends on your sizing. We'll say 24 adults, but we have an event that's called an open studio. So what that is it's open to anybody. So if there's something specific that you're wanting to make, you would pre-register in advance so we could have that all ready for you when you arrived. But we also, during those times, offer a lot of walk-in projects, too, for all ages, where anybody can come in and make something with us. And then our private parties, we still stuck with the no number requirement, because sometimes people would want to have an event with us, but we had a 12-person minimum after COVID, but they're like, well, I only know 10 people, so they wouldn't want to do it. And it wasn't that there was a minimum, but it was 12 to get your deposit back. Well, now we took that away, and it's just a $50 flat fee, whether you want to bring one person or 24 to have a private event, and then everybody chooses their own project. So that has worked out a lot better because people aren't as scared about having to find more people to come with them.
Can we talk about pre-business first, and then we'll get back and
Sure.
talk more about the business? Tell us a little bit about Johni Hogue.
So like I said, I work full-time as well. I work for the Department of Human Services. I have a bachelor's degree in business, and I like to refer to myself as a serial entrepreneur.
Oh.
So probably 3rd grade, I was the kid making bookmarks out of glue on top of a pencil box so I could sell them at lunch.
There you go.
I love
I've
it.
got a heart for that. That's what I did in 5th grade.
Yep. So, I joined Girl Scouts because I wanted to sell cookies. So I just have always had a passion for finding a way to make money. And I don't know what started that. It started at a very young age. So as far as business, I've done everything from making and selling glue bookmarks to I owned a tropical snow stand for about 10 years. I did that while I was in college. And
where's college?
I graduated from SEMO.
Okay.
So, yeah. And, I've had so many endeavors along the way. Like some were things like I started on my own. I've dabbled in various sorts of network marketing, and I don't know, I just have a passion for having a business of some kind. When I decided to sell my snow cone place, it was like, every summer of my life had been dedicated to that for nearly 10 years. And it was like, I was over it. I wanted it done. And I'm like, I don't want to run a business anymore. Like, I just want to get off work and live my life. That didn't even last a year, I don't think. Like, I would get done with work and I'm like, okay, so now what? So then even during that time, I was making and selling stuff on the side, which is kind of how this happened. So I've been not only a passion for business, but I've been doing a crafting of some sort since I was probably 12. For whatever reason, literally at age 12, I got invited to, I don't know if you've maybe ever heard of Creative Memories, like the scrapbooking home parties.
Yes.
I don't know why somebody invited me to that at that age, but it was like me and like all my friends' moms. Well, I didn't have money, so I'm like, okay, Grandma, this will be so fun. Like, we'll do this. Well, we both fell in love with it. And so then it started with scrapbooking and turned into wreath making and vinyl projects and T-shirts and all of the things. So if there's a craft out there, I've either tried it or I don't know about it yet.
So it's the second time I've heard you mention grandmother.
Yes.
So how is she influential in the business?
So she is my biggest fan in all of the things. So she's been there for all of my crazy ideas.
Let's mention her name because if grandmother listens to this.
Well, so her name is Norma, but it's kind of funny. I've called her Granny my whole life. And so she helps in my studio, and I'll always introduce her. I'm like, this is Granny, but she also answers to Norma.
Yeah.
So you'll hear adults like Granny calling for her. So yeah, she is a huge part of it. She's been there every step of the way through listening to all my crazy ideas to now she's my, you can't really call her an employee because she works for Hugs, so we call her a volunteer.
Yeah.
But she'll hold down the fort at the studio if I'm busy, like preparing the projects and things like that, because between her and I design the projects, cut all of the lumber, run the website, the social media, the studio, answer all the questions. So it's just us.
Yeah. Is your family from here, Marion, Illinois, or?
No, so I actually lived in Cobden.
Okay.
So everybody's kind of Union County area, but
Okay.
I lived in Cobden when I originally found the space for my business. I fell into business. I wasn't necessarily planning all of this, but I had went out to eat at 618 Tap House, and I, window dreaming. I peeked into my space, and at that time it was gravel floor, no walls, no ceiling, no electricity, no nothing. And I jokingly said to someone, I'm like, that'd be a perfect place for me to open a business.
Yeah.
And I have a very all or nothing mentality. Like, it's either in my brain 24/7 or it's gone. And so that night, of course, I go home and I'm researching all of the things. And I think it was probably 4 days later I signed the lease.
Yeah, wow.
And so I'm like, okay, we're doing this. So it escalated very quickly.
So, first of all, learning that you have another full-time job about made me fall out of my chair, because I do think you're amazing at not only all it takes to pull off the projects, but the hard parts of marketing, social media, website, taking reservations. So that isn't a question. It's just kudos to you.
Thank you.
That's a lot.
It is. There's times, in the business that I'm in, there are slower seasons, and then from about October until I close down for the holidays, there's points where I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm meeting myself coming and going. And it's better now because now I live in Marion. My shop is in Marion. For a while, I was trying to balance everything between living in Cobden, working in Murfreesboro, and running a shop in Marion. So there were times that I'm like, there's no wonder I don't have time to do stuff. I just drive around all day. And so now that I'm still busy, but I've been able to implement a lot of batch processing and doing certain tasks on certain days, and living less than 10 minutes from my studio has been a game changer. So it was a huge relief once I finally purchased my house here in Marion and live close by.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the city,
Yes.
first of all. And second, so you mentioned what I would call kind of business within the business
Yes.
that you deployed during COVID. So are you still doing subscription? Are you still doing, and how has that evolved?
We do. So we still offer the subscription box, and we do. So I never could have really. Social media is a crazy thing. So it always blows my mind when somehow I'll get orders from other states, because I do still. My website, I do it myself, so it's probably not as current as it should be, but it's constantly under construction. But I do still sell a lot online, and so I have customers from all over that still do our subscription box and order kits from me. And we do what's called a party in a box. So if somebody, we've had the situation before where the scheduling didn't work, or the group was too big to host in my studio, or whatever the case is, we also will do the same option where we put everybody's event on the website and they order just like they would if they were coming to the studio. But I package everything up, including the project, the supplies, all paint, instruction, everything they would need, and we either deliver it or send it to them so they can have their own party on their time. So I always say they get everything they would get in the studio except me and my grandma.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And we're just a phone call away. So that is really cool, because I mean, originally in planning the business, a subscription box probably wasn't even something that I would have ever even thought of.
That's neat.
Like, I love subscription boxes and I get them, but for some reason it just never would have been on my radar. So to be able to do that right from the beginning was really cool.
So how tough a business is that? Because we've had other guests and we've suggested subscription would be the next, and it's an unknown, right? I mean, I can watch a lot of YouTube videos and learn, but what have you learned?
Well, so I kind of it was very sudden. So like I kind of dove in head first and like figured it out on the way. But I think probably the most challenging part of it is retention and learning like what is going to make those people stay on, because it's been kind of like a roller coaster. Like you'll have a ton of people who'll join at once, and so then it's like you have a ton and then people fall off, and then all of a sudden more come in. So it's just kind of trying to figure out that balance and how to kind of account for and order supplies and everything and kind of project what you're going to have at any given time is probably the most challenging part. But I did find there was a subscription box masterclass that, you know, social media somehow knows what you need before you do, and it just pops into your news feed. So I was able to find, it was like a $10 masterclass, and there was some really good information in that.
That's good. I'm so glad that you have a business degree, but it sounds like you've learned a lot just from trial and error and study.
Well, I jokingly say I'm a student for life. I have a bachelor's in business, but I got my doctorate on YouTube.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm constantly learning and growing and changing things, and that's the fun part about it being your business, is you can try something, and if it works, great. If not, scrap it and try something different.
Well, I think that shows that you're a thriver yourself, and that is so much of a thriving business. It's like if we get up in the morning and we are ready to learn again and grow, it's when we get tired and say we just need a break from it. It's, I think, this when our businesses start to stumble. But
So sometimes we hear that as a society, we're not so great at showing young people entrepreneurship as a pathway. We kind of say go to school or get a trade and get a job. It feels like it was very natural for you, but like, what could the community do different, or do you see a path where you could help young people, or I mean, where should we be on that? Or do you think it's a lot of just natural?
I think it's all kind of about the work you're willing to put in it. I think I'm going to say today's generation. That sounds bad, but I think it's kind of like a microwave society. Like we want instant gratification on everything. So I think young people especially will, and I have been guilty of it myself, where you try something for a few weeks and you're like, wow, this isn't working, and throw in the towel. But really it's a matter of like, it's hard work, and sometimes that's not what people want to do. Like we want instant gratification, and we want the easy path, a magic pill, so to speak, and business is not like that. There's every day it seems like there's something new to learn, and if you're not willing to put forth the effort in learning or finding the resources that are available to you, it doesn't really matter what the community has available, because you're not going to find those things anyway. So I think it's a matter of like perseverance and individual people, because the things are out there. You just have to have the willpower to utilize them and find it. That's my thoughts.
That's awesome. Some grit,
yes,
right? We're about to do a mastermind in grit.
A lot of hustle goes into it, that's for sure. And when I started this, it was like, it was kind of a side project at first, but like my goal and the end is like, well, I would love to just be able to do this full time, because let me tell you, 8 hours in my studio goes by a lot faster than working for the state of Illinois. Way more fun doing crafts. And so that's the goal. And I don't understand why I'm like this, because my friends are like, you can literally work 8 hours a day and be done and have weekends free, but you're working like 16 to 20 every day. And I'm like, I know, isn't it great? It's so fun. And so I feel like it's just it's kind of a roller coaster.
And that's the definition of an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, it's a roller coaster. There's days where it feels like, I'm like, oh man, I'm crushing it. Like I should quit my job tomorrow. And then the next thing you know, I'm calling I have a group of friends who have similar businesses in other states. Mm. We're all on a Zoom call, like, why are we even doing this?
Yeah.
So it's just enjoying the roller coaster, I guess.
Yeah. So in your mind, do you already know what you're going to do next as far as another program or another rollout of something with your company?
Well, so we're having some growing pains right now. Our space is smaller than what we're needing. So we have been working on getting a bigger space, because people are constantly coming in and they want to buy stuff right then versus having to order it and wait on me to cut it. But because of limited space, I don't have the ability to offer more of what I have as far as kind of like a retail section or a larger selection of projects to choose from on a walk-in basis. So the next big thing is we're looking to expand those options and be able to do more projects and offer more that's readily available for people.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, for the benefit of the audience, I mistakenly asked this ahead of this visit, but I'll re-ask. Okay. So you have been a part of Third Thursdays for the last 2 months, which is a program really kind of started by downtown merchants and open to anybody on the third Thursday of each month who wants to stay open late or have a special or have entertainment. And so we're glad that you're a part of it. And how's that going?
Well, so I think one of the things that we love most about it is it has managed to attract a whole new crowd to my business. So I think kind of one of the struggles of small town operations is that our audience is smaller than what we would have in a large city. So we rely a lot on repeat business, which we love our repeat customers and they've become like family to us, but we need to continue growing. So Third Thursday has both months that we have participated, over 90% of the people who have joined us have been people that had never heard of us until then. So that was very cool, because that's the first thing I like to ask is, which most of the time I recognize faces and can tell if they've been there or not. And so that's one of the first things I ask is if they have been before. And we've had family groups join us, or we have had a couple people who have been following us on social media but have been kind of like intimidated to come in. So the fact that it's a smaller, quicker option, they're like, okay, I can do that. And then, it goes from there, where it's kind of, we've heard people say it's addicting. So they'll come in and they'll make like one small thing, and then they'll realize like, okay, this is something I can do. And so then they're constantly looking at the wall on the website and thinking of what they want to make next. So being able to be a part of that has been huge, because we've already booked additional events from it and have gotten a lot of new foot traffic into kind of our repeat circle that we didn't have before. So very glad that we are able to participate.
Well, thanks for reaching out and asking how to participate, because it is open to anybody. But I love that you just took the initiative to say, who do I need to find to be a part of this?
That's what I told my grandma. I'm like, we're not on the square, but I want to do this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, you've already busted one myth for me, which is I don't have to be good at crafts to come and enjoy your space. So my other myth that I'm curious about is, like, do you get many men, or do they go watch the game at 618 and send the women over to make something?
We have been trying to get more and more men in there, because I sometimes lead off. I'm like, we have our liquor license. It's not just like ladies in paint. You can come too, have a beer. But we had offered a date night where,
smart.
each person is working on a project that coordinates together. And I think the biggest challenge is getting the men in there. Once they're there, it seems like they have a good time. For Third Thursday, we had a gentleman come in with his family, and that's the same thing he said. He's like, this is really fun. Like, I've enjoyed this. And so I think the biggest thing, I know my boyfriend, I made him come to one of the date nights, and I told him, I was like, this is like Undercover Boss, except Grandma knows that we're coming.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is going to be bad for business. I'm not a crafter. He's like, I don't have a crafty bone in my body. And I'm like, people have said that, and they actually pay me to teach them how to do it. So I feel like you're going to be okay. And so it was a lot of fun, and same thing, like, we have younger little boys that will come in they'll get invited to a birthday party or a siblings party, and you can tell from the beginning they're looking like they might be there against their will, but then once they realize that there's a project custom to what they're interested in, then it becomes a different ball game. So one of my favorites, we had a child's birthday party, and this little boy comes in, and he might have been 5, but he comes in and he had on this big cowboy hat and these cowboy boots, and he just was not looking forward to it at all. And so he was kind of, dragging along, not really looking to get started. And when I said, okay, I believe this is you. I have a tractor designed for you with your name on it. The hat came off, he pushed up the sleeves, and it was go time once he saw that it was a tractor. So we don't just do flowers and girly stuff. Yeah. We have man designs too.
That's so good to hear, because I do think art and handcraft is so therapeutic, and we all could use that in our crazy world. So
it is.
That's good.
And so originally, one of the questions I had seen on the list that you had sent me was about the why. And my first year or so of business, when people would ask me that, I'm like, I don't know, because I wanted to. I like business and I like crafting, so that's why. Yeah. But it was really especially during COVID, hearing people say oh, these crafts are the only thing getting me by. I'm so stir crazy being at home, and this gives me something to look forward to. Or even now, where we'll have repeat people join us all the time. We have a craft club, which is the same members that come every month. And it'll be, we jokingly say like craft therapy, but it really is, because it just kind of helps you come in and like unplug from everything else and focus on what you're working on. So when I was actually in the process of like starting the business and thinking of different names, you know, I was thinking of all these things with like creations in the title or different things, just kind of bouncing off ideas. And I'm like, okay, well, my perfect day is where like I can just kind of unplug from everything, just kind of like get away, go to my craft room and just craft and not think about anything else. So I was like, that's perfect. The Creative Getaway.
That's good.
It's perfect.
Anything else that you want to include in this interview?
I think probably just a tip for anybody who's just getting started: try as hard as possible to implement organization from the beginning. And that's also advice for myself as well. Like my biggest thing is like I'll just have what I call organized chaos from the start, and then once I manage to loop back around and find some sort of system to implement, it's like, that would have made my life so much easier. Why didn't I do that from the beginning? So I think finding systems to put in place for certain things and where you can batch process different things makes a world of difference. Because when you're trying to do one social media post at a time, ship one thing at a time, design one thing at a time, like you spend all of your time just doing something here and there. So when you can take those tasks and schedule a bunch of social media posts, have a shipping day, just anywhere that you can batch process things and be organized, you're going to save yourself a ton of time and headache in the long run.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
I think you can come to Ethos and speak on that. That would be very, very good.
No, I
for all
love
of us.
that, because I hear people say, well, don't worry, it'll get done. But I do think, like, when things get done, it's often because you've blocked time and you've done parts of that all along. So the getting it done has been happening over the course of time. But
Well, I know previously, and again, part of it was in the earlier stages was because I was busy like driving everywhere, and like I was basically, I'm like, I don't care what's on Friday, like I'm just worried about today.
Sure.
Like I got to get today done and then we can figure it out. Well, now that my life is all in one place, it's like, okay, on this day I'm gonna cut all of the stuff. On this day I'm gonna make stencils. On this day I'm gonna ship things. And it's been, I'm like, I'm busier, but I'm like, look at me having a life and not going crazy. I'm like, it was just, it seemed like a lot of the stress of business, sometimes it kind of seems like we kind of bring on ourselves, but we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us for this podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How would someone get a hold of you, or how would they find your business?
So I am the Creative Getaway on all of the things, social media, Instagram. Our website is thecreativegetaway.com, and yeah, all of the places, Facebook, Instagram.
And right now your location
Email.
is, what's the address?
2703 17th Street. So we're right next door to 618 Tap House.
Okay, awesome.
Tucked away in the corner.
Awesome. Very good podcast guest.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and your
thanks for
first
having
one,
me.
right?
First one.
You did great.
I didn't die.
you did not die.
That's awesome. We'll quote that when we invite other people
Yes.
to come
Didn't
join
die.
us.
We have yet to kill anyone.
Yeah,
Well, that's
exactly.
one of my lines whenever at the studio. We'll have, because we do use power tools and different things
Oh, okay.
there, and people will be nervous. And I'm like, I haven't lost anybody yet.
There you go.
It's that, but did you die? No,
Yeah.
you're good.
Well, we thank Johni Hogue from The Creative Getaway.
Yes.
And we appreciate you being here. We appreciate your business being in Marion,
Thank you.
Illinois also.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Small Town Big Business. And thank you to our sponsors and supporters. Thanks to Arcadia Wealth Group, Black Diamond Harley Davidson, and RV. Fowler Heating and Cooling, Swinford Media Group, Watermark Auto Group Foundation, and also Union Street Arts. Of course, Luke O'Neill is our producer and recorder. And thank you so much also draw you to Ethos, our downtown small business incubator and co-working spaces here in Marion, Illinois. If you have questions about Ethos or this podcast, you can reach out to me. I'm Russell Williams. My email address is russell@watermarkethos.org. If you want to follow us on Facebook, you're going to look for Ethos at the Citadel.
So thank you for tuning in, and I'll thank Russ for reading the sponsors. I'm so glad that's his job. If you want to find me, Jennifer Olson, I work for the city. I'm over at City Hall. You can pop in, or you're welcome to find me on any of our social media platforms. Thank you so much for joining us. And because we don't want you to miss any of our great guests, because it's not about us, it's the guests that make it magical and that are having small business success here in our town. Please subscribe, go to your favorite podcast app, YouTube, however you like to see your media, and subscribe to Small Town Big Business.
I'm Russ Williams.
I'm Jennifer Olson.
See you next time.
See you next time.